Thanks. So basically what was discussed is there's two components to this law. The first part of it, which is the legal side of it, where a written information security program has to be developed to cover basically the plan of attack for your network and your computers and your policies for your documentation you have in your office. And the second piece of it drives on the computer side and the network side of things and what you need to do to protect that information. And that's what I want to discuss a little bit with you. The law basically says, and I'll read it verbatim here, every person that electronically stores or transmits personal information shall include in its written comprehensive information security program the establishment and maintenance of a security system covering its computers, including wireless systems, including at a minimum the following elements. So in the law, you have to actually read the law, there's 9 components of this law, and each one of those things has to be inside your written information program, and things that you need to do to secure that personal information that's on your network. The first thing they talk about is securing user authentication protocols. This is basically your username and passwords. Everybody needs to have their own username, and everybody has to have their own password. And you cannot share your username or your password with people. So if you are doing that now, you need to make sure that practice stops almost immediately. And you also have to secure methods of assigning and selecting passwords. Use a secure method. So you know when before, many years ago, you used to be able to just type in whatever you wanted for a password. And remember when we didn't even have passwords? Life was great, right? Now we have to type in these uppercase, lowercase, pound key, all these different characters just to log in. And it's becoming more and more difficult to get access to the information that we need. Not only that, we have sites, websites that we go to that also need username and password. And trying to remember all these can sometimes becomes very difficult. Quite frankly, if you recognize your password here, you may well hand over your wallet or purse to the first person you see on the street. The key with setting a password, and we did an article in one of our recent newsletters, it talks about how to select a good password. And sometimes even selecting a good password for users is just remembering a phrase. And that phrase, you remember the first letter or the last letter. If anybody wants to see a copy of that article too, let me know afterwards, and I'll send it over to you. But that's one solution. The passwords are actually almost doing it this way is becoming passé. Anybody hear of biometric solutions or biometric authentication? That way, when you do biometrics, it makes things a lot easier, so you don't have to remember all this. So it's something you have and something you know. Sort of like your bank card when you go to the ATM. So you slide the card in, you have a card, it has all that access, and then you just put in a 4-digit or 10-digit PIN code, whatever you use. So in the computer side of things, we call that, we can also do the same thing. You can have a card or a token, we call it, and using that token, that gives you the authentication. So you have a username, the token, and then a short PIN code. So you don't have to remember these huge passwords. All you have to remember is that PIN code. Anybody use biometrics here right now? No? Okay. There's different ways you can do biometrics. You see them on TV all the time. You can use like a fingerprint. You can use retina scans. You can do they have new scanners where they read the veins in your hand. There's some really cool technology out there that you can use but the tokens are really, really popular. That's a pretty inexpensive solution for most businesses. And if you still don't do that, the minimum with the law is still making sure your passwords are complex passwords and meet a minimum length. The second component is control data security passwords to ensure that such passwords are in a location or a format that does not compromise the security of the data they protect. So what that basically means is, I can't tell you how many times in my years of being an engineer and working on hundreds and hundreds of computer systems around the New England area, how I would sit down at a desk trying to get on somebody's computer and slide out that wire that kind of slides out of the desk, and there they all are. There's all the passwords I need, including their bank account numbers and all that stuff. Or usually right underneath the monitor, the keyboard. Those are the first places I look to get access to your system. Now, I can be your cleaner, and who knows the people that are coming in doing that cleaning, and now they have full access to your system? That's not a good thing. So we need to make sure that these passwords are memorized. If they're not memorized, and that's why it makes it very difficult when you have to have these really long passwords to memorize them. So what the law is basically saying is memorize your passwords. If you cannot memorize your passwords, then store them in a safe place in which the same thing of the data you're protecting is also stored. For instance, if I have a password to my network of my whole computer, my whole company, maybe I don't put it in my, maybe I put it in my wallet, just like where I put all of my other protected information, like my credit cards and all the cash that I have. Okay, so that's kind of the goal there. So memorize your password. Do not share your password. If you must write it down, record it in a safe place. Maybe put it in a safe also. Safe is not a bad place for those passwords that you need maybe once a year, you know. Restrict access to active users and active users account only. So when somebody is terminated from the position in your company, you need to make sure that you go back and remove access to your network and your systems so they can't access that information. Okay? And also blocking access to users' identification after multiple unsuccessful attempts to gain access. This is a very simple thing to do on most networks. Give them 3 login attempts. If they can't get in after 3 times, you'll lock them out for 20 minutes. I can't tell you how many people today don't have that component in place, because all I have to run is a very simple piece of software, and all it will do is randomly generate known passwords against your system, and I'll get in. It's just not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when. And if you do the lockout, it makes it very difficult for me, because all of a sudden I'm trying to attempt to get in, and all of a sudden I'm locked out. So even though I'm trying other passwords, and because I'm just keep attempting, it's just going to just block me out. Secure access control measures that restrict access to records and files containing personal information to those who need information to perform their job duties. So you want to identify on your network where you have secure information, and that information needs to be secured. Now, how is that secured? Well, first thing, username and password, and it has to be the proper authentication to get that information. And you need to record that and log this every time they access the information, so you can know who, what, when, where, why that information was accessed. And not to mention, it even has to go one more step forward, because in the unlikely event that somebody breaks into your corporation and steals one of your servers, okay, that information needs to be encrypted, because as a hacker, all I have to do is, if I have access to that equipment, okay, all I need to do is take that drive out of that server, plug it into a computer, which I am authenticated to, I have access to that information. Okay, so that information, if it's on your network, needs to be encrypted even on your local servers.